Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Von Manor, where Roger and I have returned. And today we're talking about Occult Detective October. So, here on BookTube, every month there's like a dozen or so reading events going on, and probably more than that, Roger. And in October, the reading event I will be taking part in is Occult Detective October, which is a reading event created by MJ over at Reading This Life, and there are a bunch of cool co-hosts, which I'll link down below. And I am one of those co-hosts, and everybody else put their announcement video for this event up already, but not me. But here I am now, Roger. Here I am now to talk about Occult Detective October and my plans. So we'll see. I have no idea how October is going to be. Every month is different. And every month I'm able to get through a different number of books. It all depends on the dreadful thing called real life. Real life, Roger. It's terrible. And it just keeps getting worse. Have you noticed? But Occult Detective October, much like the occult itself, has nothing to do with real life. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about Occult Detective October and some of the things I will be reading, or some of the things I hope to read anyway. We'll see how much of this I actually get through. That's always the case. So occult detectives are a ton of fun. Detectives who are specifically devoted to researching the supernatural. The supernatural, Roger. So, of course, in real life, there's no such thing as the supernatural. Just ask Roger. He's a reanimated ancient mummy, so he should know. But it's a ton of fun in fiction. And in fiction, detectives, who very often are different from their real life counterparts anyway, in a lot of ways, these are detectives who are specifically there to help you with your supernatural problems. And I've got an interesting batch here. So occult detectives, man, they've been around for a long, long time, since before the Victorian age, I believe. And this event has different weekly prompts if you choose to go along with them. Let's see what we've got here. So week 1 is pre-1960 occult detectives. Week 2 is post-1960 occult detectives. Week 3 is diverse author or character. And week 4 is anything goes. I'm really bad usually at following weekly prompts because, who knows whether I'll actually be able to get through one of the books in a particular week or whatever. So usually on weekly prompts, I just kind of go with anything goes all 4 weeks. Usually that's how I do it. And that's probably how I'm going to be doing it for Occult Detective October. But what the heck am I going to read for Occult Detective October? Well, I've got some stuff set up. And like I said, we'll see how much I'll actually get to. And the first thing is something I'm hoping to start reading before this month ends, because it is Robert E. Howard, and right now it is Sumerian September at the moment. And this is the horror stories of Robert E. Howard. And this has, I believe, all of the John Kirwan stories. John Kirwan was an occult detective created by Robert E. Howard, who only was in a few stories, and I think all of those stories are in this big fat volume. But this is a great book. I've talked about this book before. I think I've done a whole video on this book at one point. The horror stories of Robert E. Howard. And going into October, of course, is the perfect time to revisit these stories. So I'm hoping to start this actually before the end of the month, and then going into October, I'll be reading this almost surely, if things go according to plan. But I've also got Roger's cheap old book club. Roger has a very cheap book club, the cheapest book club around. All of Roger's picks are in the public domain, and you can get them from Project Gutenberg for free, including John Silence. So this is the complete John Silence stories by Algernon Blackwood. You can get the original edition of John Silence on Project Gutenberg, and I think it's missing maybe 1 or 2 stories. I can't remember. But the original publication of John Silence, Physician Extraordinary, is available on Project Gutenberg. Or you can get this book from Dover and get the complete John Silence stories. And it's been a long time since I've read the John Silence stories, since I've read this book. Algernon Blackwood is one of my favorite writers. He's fantastic. And so, yeah, it's about time I revisit John Silence. It's a complete coincidence, Roger, that this came up as Roger's pick for October. But it works out. So, the complete John Silence stories. I will definitely, this is one that I will definitely be reading for sure. One thing I would like to revisit is at least volume 1 of Seabury Quinn's Jules de Grandin, who I've talked about fairly recently. I really like Jules de Grandin, an occult detective who made his appearance in Weird Tales and lurked around Weird Tales for years and years, fighting, every supernatural menace you could think of, and even a few non-supernatural menaces. Jules de Grandin is my favorite occult detective, and I've been meaning to get back to this character for years. And so, yeah, this would be a good time to start getting back into Jules de Grandin. I like I said, I've got the 5-volume set. I'd like to go through all of those books once again, but we'll see. But it's a fun character, and this is the horror on the Links, Volume 1 of the complete Jules de Grandin. So I'm hoping to get to that. But there's some other stuff, including a couple books that I have electronically. I have a couple ebooks, and one of those that I've had forever is The Night Stalker by Jeff Rice, and I've literally had this as an ebook for, I think, probably a decade. I've had this thing forever. But, the thing with ebooks is, out of sight, out of mind. And I have a ton of ebooks that I just have never read, and I forget that I have them. And that's including this one. And I got this, but I never read it, mostly because I hear it's not very good. I love the character. And I watched the 2 television movies and the television show that came out for 1 season? But I've never read the original book. Like I said, because I hear it's not very good. But I really should read it. And Jeff over at Jeff's Cave of Cool Books just recently talked about this character, and that made me think, I should add this to the pile for Occult Detective October. So I added it to the pile. But that's not the only book that I want to get to. There's also The Tomb by F. Paul Wilson, the first Repairman Jack novel, which I actually have a physical copy of somewhere. I have a physical copy of this. I'm sure I even showed it on the channel at some point, but I have the first several Repairman Jack books at least as ebooks. I don't think I have them all. But I've got several of them, including the first one, The Tomb. And this is actually the only one of the series that I ever read, and I read it a number of years ago. So I should pick this back up, because I would like to get to this series of books. I hear it's good. And I remember liking the first book. So yeah, Repairman Jack. Probably get to that. I have a couple other books I want to talk about. And one is one that I'm for sure going to get to. It's a graphic novel. This is Vampirella, Dead Flowers. This is from Dynamite Comics. And I'm not a huge Vampirella fan, but this book was written by Sarah Frazetta and our own Bob Freeman. And Bob Freeman has his own channel, and he's actually a co-host for Occult Detective October. He's down below. You should check out his channel, because his channel is awesome. Bob Freeman, Occult Detective. And he assures me that this would qualify for Occult Detective October. So this is a book I'm definitely going to read. Vampirella Dead Flowers, available now. It's available now. And it looks pretty good. Yeah. So art is by Alberto Locatelli. And it looks like a cool book. So definitely going to be reading this in October. And of course, can we have an Occult Detective October without talking about Occult Detective magazine? Every issue of Occult Detective magazine, I believe, is still available on Amazon. And this issue is the Mythos Special #2 from 2024, from last year, which I still have not read. Actually, there are 2 Mythos specials, and I haven't read either one. So hopefully I'll get to one or both of them in October. We will see. You know, it's all up in the air because there are other things also that I have to read in October, like The Shadow and Doc Savage and other stuff. But mostly it's going to be Occult Detective stuff for Occult Detective October, and it's going to be a ton of fun, which is, you know, why I enjoy BookTube events. They give you a chance to visit some things that, you know, maybe you wouldn't have on your own, and it gives you a good excuse to visit some things maybe you would want to revisit, like more Robert E. Howard and Jules de Grandin. And cool comics. So there you go. Occult Detective October. Check out my co-hosts and see what their plans are. Like I said, most of them have already put up their videos for Occult Detective October. I will catch you next time.